A curious spacefaring alien species, ancient artifacts scattered across enchanting worlds, a mystery that spans space and time. These are just some of the elements that make Outer Wilds, a 2019 game from Mobius Digital, such a memorable and moving experience. The game also proves you don't need hostile aliens to make space exploration totally captivating. I'm really super stoked today to be talking to Alex Beecham, the creative director of Outer Wilds, and Loan Verneau, the designer of the game. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
This is just a game that has really stuck with me. Obviously, it's resonated with a ton of people. So I'm just like, I almost don't even know where to begin. So I thought maybe we could just start, first of all, by letting our viewers know that if they haven't played the game, there won't be spoilers in this interview. We're just going to talk a little bit more generally about the themes and ideas and stuff in the game. So keep watching if you haven't played, but you should. But, given like there's this game has a lot of complex narrative stuff. It's got great science fiction ideas. I just wonder if you could take me back to the beginning, the initial spark of the campfire of this game. What was the initial inspiration for it?
Way back at the very, very beginning, I feel like the core thing was just wanting to make like an interactive experience that sort of captured the feeling, the essence of sort of real world space exploration.
The first prototype I can ever remember was about just having a spaceship you could hop in and use to go around.
That's one of the things I first really loved and noticed about the game, was just that the way that spaceflight works in it, you have to think about your oxygen supplies. You have to think about the gravitational force of bodies that are smaller and bigger. It's very realistic, and both in terms of like the wonder of it, and also like, oh, this is like practical and frustrating, and you must be able to like learn all of the different parts of this star system and the way that your spacecraft works in it. So how do you put something like that together? Like, what was the actual development process of making sure that it felt as real as possible? The
realism of it, the sort of like the true to life-ish nature of the physics and the space flight was sort of like one of the earliest things, and one of the things that was just never in question, just because we wanted to get that kind of feeling. It's funny because people, we get asked like, oh man, you did all this physics stuff. And it's like, there was a lot of work, especially later on, that the tech team had to deal with to get sort of all of this stuff working. But in terms of like just setting that up, once you have some like two things that are like, this thing's getting pulled towards this thing at a certain acceleration based on distance, and you like kind of just give it a poke in the right way and it starts doing this, and then you put the player in a box and you're like, cool, when the player pushes this button, we're just going to apply an acceleration on the box. Like that's 90% of it. It's just it's like the math of it, I guess, isn't that complicated, but from the player experience obviously is. And then we had to go in and do a bunch of stuff to make that easier for people.
That's really interesting to kind of know that because it did feel like it was complicated astrodynamic stuff, and I'm sure it was, but it's funny how like at its core, simple laws of motion, I suppose.
I guess counterintuitively, the complicated stuff was when we had to cheat things to make it playable.
I see.
Like there are situations where, in fact, to the point where like there are places in the game where we don't actually cheat it, and those are the places that our players are like, this can't be right, because it's so counterintuitive. It's like, no, your center of mass and the ship's center of mass are slightly off, and the gravity well you're in is so extreme that you're getting pulled apart. But no one, like some people get it, but so we massage most of that away, and all of so it's playable.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I really loved, because, you can interview as many scientists as you want about like how hard it is to touch down on a comet. But man, this game really shows you how hard it is. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm wondering for both of you, like, have you ever wanted to go to space yourself, and like, did the experience of actually making this and learning all about how complex and difficult it can be change that at all?
I mean, obviously, I want to go to space, Lon.
Yeah,
we'll go to space. Yeah.
I'm actually much more, I love space, but I'm a little bit hesitant. And I think this game made me slightly even more hesitant.
Probably the more healthy response, yeah.
It's exciting to be at a time where like that's even something people are talking about, like actually putting people on other planets. We got to the moon a long time ago, I heard from my parents, and that sounds like that was an amazing experience to watch. I hope my generation gets to see that sort of thing again.
Yeah, likewise. And to that point, you know, one of the things I enjoyed so much about this game is like just the fact that it's very exploration and it's very ruminative. You don't, unlike a lot of other games set in space, you know, you're not like getting a giant gun out to shoot aliens every 2 seconds or something like that. It's much more of a contemplative kind of exploration experience. Was that always something that was a part of the game, or did that kind of just happen with the development of it?
That was an important part from the beginning, and kind of what Lon was saying earlier, like how early on it was like we talked about wanting from the beginning to make something that kind of captured what in our minds is the essence of space exploration. And I guess what we mean by that is a combination of you're in a tin can with rockets strapped to it, you're fragile, it's probably a bad idea. But the reason you're doing it is to go learn things about the universe and sort of like ask the big questions. And you have to like brave space and nature to do so.
I mentioned, of course, like that there's no combat, but that doesn't mean there's no danger. There's lots of environmental, scary stuff in this game that I really enjoyed and sometimes dreaded. I wonder, you know, when I was playing it, I was thinking a lot of like our own solar system bodies and how they're beautiful, but often really terrifying, like Venus or, you know, the Kuiper Belt and all of these just environments that we're getting more familiar with. Were there real world sort of solar system examples or exoplanetary examples that inform some of the worlds and environments that are in this game, both in their most terrifying and beautiful forms?
I think the static goal that I remember Alex giving to Wesley when we started was backpacking in space. It's you're at a campfire, you look up in the stars, and then, you know, instead of just dreaming of going there, you stand up, get into your spaceship, and actually go there. And that was very much the aesthetic there, which is a nice contrast to the very full of death experience of actually going into space that I think was actually a design challenge, because as you're saying, without combat, people don't necessarily expect to die that often, and Outer Wilds is definitely a game in which you die quite a bit.
So many beautiful, creative ways.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
We worked really hard.
Yeah.
The game folds in all of these really complex science fiction ideas and real science ideas. There's quantum mechanics, there's black hole physics. That was just a joy for me to play through, to see those kinds of concepts in a narrative sense, play into the story. And so where did those ideas come from for you?
Back when this was like a thesis project way back in the day, the first part was that they just gave us a prompt that was do something with the uncertainty principle. It's like on a list of prompts we could choose from. It's just like that one. And so that was like literally the birth. It was like a standalone quantum mechanics like prototype that we then like duct taped into the project like 6 months later, and then became like a narrative centerpiece of everything.
We're trying to go more for true to the feeling of real world exploration, right? It's like it's miniature planets, and so as a result, we had to play with gravity and gravity fall off a lot, because if you use actual gravity fall off on miniature planets, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't work the way it's just because the planets are miniature. The scales don't work the same way, and so on and so forth. So it's like inspired by real physics and inspired by real world space exploration, more than it is trying to copy the exact rules. There has been so many arguments in the office about like whether or not like should we cheat the gravity in this building or not?
Yep.
and so on. It's always push and pull.
So the water cooler talk at your place is very much like, how much do you cheat gravity? How much can you make this black hole real or not?
I do feel the need to clarify that we probably spent more time arguing about like what should, like, is prosciutto better than ham on a baguette sandwich than astrophysics? Like we're not. We do talk about science, but I feel like we maybe talk about sandwiches more.
Well, also a completely worthy topic. Yeah, absolutely. So, bringing it back to Outer Wilds, I've had so many fun conversations with people who played this game. It really is its own little community, and obviously it's really acclaimed and it's won all these awards. I would love to know what it's like, to have been working on this for so long, to have it come from that kind of like modest kernel of an inspiration, and now being such a widely beloved game. What's it been like to receive that love from people?
I have to do a shout out to our community, who is just the nicest, most welcoming, but also like, I don't know, they've been so great about spoilers. They've been so great about just, being a really healthy community.
It is the only like subreddit I've ever seen where like you can go read like people like debating something and it's just like completely reasonable.
Right.
It's more cordial than like scientific threads. Subjects.
Well, we definitely all want more. So that I just want to close by asking that, what's next for you and your team? Is there anything we can look forward to in the coming months or years that you're working on?
We just announced the expansion for Outer Wilds, so that's exciting. We've been keeping that secret for a while.
What's going to be included in that?
Well, I guess in the spirit of this, we're tackling some new fun sci-fi concepts that are not in the rest of the game, so that's cool. It is going to be part of the existing game, because we can't leave well enough alone. Oh my god, I don't have a spiel for this. This is the first time we've ever talked to anyone outside of like the team directly about this. So
we're so excited.
It is, without giving anything away, it is sort of, it is tackling sort of themes and ideas that are almost counterpoints to some of the other ideas presented in Outer Wilds. And we had a lot of fun with it, honestly. Like, I don't know, it was a little terrifying at first. We're like, should we be doing this? The answer is probably not. But I think we were able to put that aside pretty quickly and be like, whatever, we're doing it. And I think we're all really, really quite happy and proud of what we ended up with. And we're really excited for people to get to play it.